Good afternoon. I'm Daniel Miller, and this is the Gaming Dialogue News. A warm welcome to all of our friends, fans, community members, participants, and everyone watching us on different platforms worldwide. Thank you for joining us. Thank you for being our dedicated community members. And most importantly, thank you for supporting my channel and our charitable fundraiser here for the Mind Charity. The Mind Charity is a company based in Britain, an organization that provides charitable services for people who are experiencing mental health issues. Anyone who's suffering from mental disorder, from psychological pressure or emotional trauma can approach Mind and ask for the professional services, and you will be given individual group counseling, provided with some practical help. If you're experiencing difficulties with your housing, they'll advise you on how to avoid homelessness and many other ways to which you will be helped. So make sure that you support our charitable fundraiser by donating, or indeed just by sharing, following, spreading the news, making sure that our friends, family members, schoolmates, work colleagues, everyone gets to know as to why this charity is so important for us all, and a charity that provides very valuable services to everyone in our local communities. I worked with that charity and liaised with them for quite a few years in the past, and I can just tell you that their services are second to none, and many lives have been rebuilt and saved by the works which their professionals have provided. So just remember, always make sure you enter my about pages and then click on the links or the panels, and you'll get all the information which will direct you to the right source. So if you want to donate, you certainly can. If you want to be sharing the news, you can use your own social networks in order to do that. Just make sure that your friends and relatives get to know a bit more about the charity. All right, so how's everybody doing? Very nice sunny day up here yet again in the London suburbs. We're enjoying about a very good weather, and we are very happy to be enjoying the sunshine and a bit of early summer, to be honest with you. I've gone out yesterday. I had a lengthy stroll, walked to my neighbouring town, had my dinner, did everything as usual, and just enjoyed that sunshine. It was late afternoon, so it wasn't overly terribly hot, but we also have a new section of our town centre which has been recently opened, and they have some very nice bars and places out there for people to stroll towards and to enjoy some coffees and nice snacks. So a great addition to our town centre after its closure. It's been closed for quite a few years by now, and just a very good way to which I could reconnect with our local community, meet some friends, and indeed have a very nice dinner, which always is very important. A beautiful day, and today exactly the same. I've not seen much of daylight, to be honest, but nevertheless, good to see that we are progressing towards some warmer months and a bit of sunshine after that lengthy English drizzle. So, how's everybody doing today? Have you been up and about? What games have you played during the weekend? What has been entertaining you on your consoles or PCs? I'd be curious to hear. Bring us a message, drop us a tweet, let us know what you're doing at the moment. We've had an exciting few days, as at the end of last week there was a big announcement coming from Ubisoft on Assassin's Creed Shadows, a very big title coming out of the studio, part of the usual Assassin's Creed franchise, and it'll come out on the 15th of November. It will be tackling the history of Japan. You'll be playing two different characters, a samurai and a warrior, and you will be able to change who you play throughout the game, which is a novelty. So a concept similar to the one they introduced in Syndicate a few years back. And we've seen wonderful trailers and gameplay and a few other bits and pieces arising from the studios, just coercing us into that, preload, pre-buy, early orders, you name it. And I talked a lot about Assassin's Creed during my last couple of episodes of Video Gaming News, so I will not be giving you a lot more information on it today, as we have another big title emerging tomorrow, and that is Hellblade 2: Senua's Saga, and everyone very excited about it. I gave you a big in-depth look at the game, actually both games, Hellblade 1 and Hellblade 2, in my yesterday's podcast, and hope you enjoyed the description and all the information given, because I've gone through the details of how the game was made and as to what the background was, and the way they were using the Cambridge professor of neurology, or neuroscience I should say, in order to provide specialist assistance so that the character could be as realistically portrayed as possible. Don't forget, the lead character is suffering from mental illness. She's suffering from psychosis, and therefore the overall perspective on mental illness in this game had been greatly highlighted through the use of audio, through the use of scenery, through the way the characters are portrayed. It's just a masterpiece through and through. And everyone very, very excited about the next title, Senua's Saga, which indeed will unravel tomorrow at some point. So if you're one of those people who is subscribed to Xbox Game Pass, you will not need to buy the game. You can just simply preload and click on a button, make sure it is on your console, ready for your entertainment tomorrow when it launches. You can play it on cloud without downloading, but I think it's much better to simply have highest possible quality graphics and audio in order to jump in and experience that world of Senua. We'll talk today in depth about some interviews and some other information that's arrived to me in the course of the last couple of days. I think it will illuminate you on how the game was made, and from the perspective of the active participants and people who created it. Also, you'll get some more information on some ins and outs of the narrative and the gameplay. So, you know, I think considering that these two games are very, very big AAA blockbusters that everyone's been expecting for some time, I think the best way to do this is to simply crack on. Let's have a look at what everybody had said. So firstly, I will just give you a bit of introduction on what this game is about. You're familiar with the first game, which was Hellblade 1, Senua's Sacrifice, the game that was released in 2017 by, I beg your pardon, just bear with me a second. I still can't mute my mic for some reason. Is the mic provided with this mute button, which is causing me serious issues. I do apologize. I need to, do something about it ASAP. As my lengthy discussions here sometimes affect my ability to talk, and it does happen. Let me just drink a bit of water, and then I'll get back straight away. So, the first game was Hellblade: Senua's Sacrifice, created by Ninja Theory and released in 2017. And you will know that the lead character is somebody who came from Orkney Islands in Scotland, migrated to Iceland in order to battle her own demons and destroy the enemies of humanity and her own tribes. And she had been doing that very successfully. And if you were a gamer who has been playing Hellblade initially, you would have faced very many difficult enemies. All of them had to be tackled with skill, and eventually you managed to win the battle. But most importantly, not against the demons, but against, not against the enemies, but rather your own demons, which were attacking you from within, as you were suffering from hallucinations and auditory interferences, which are called furies. Basically, she was suffering from psychosis, therefore you were hearing the voices throughout the whole game. Sometimes they were pleasant, at other times they were extremely nasty, and you as the protagonist was having that full experience basically as you were carrying on with your gameplay. So the sequel, Senua's Saga, Hellblade 2, is going to be released tomorrow. Again, developed by Ninja Theory. It is an action-adventure game, and it will be published by Xbox Game Studios, accessible through the Game Pass day one. And it is a sequel to the old game from 2017, and again it is going to be set in 10th century Iceland. It will be drawing inspiration from Norse mythology and culture, and it will be out on Windows and Xbox Series X and S first tomorrow. So this game, the sequel, has been building on a success of the first one, and it's been created with a higher budget and a much greater team, larger team I should say, when compared with its predecessor. So the gameplay is somewhat similar to the previous 2017 installment. It features combo-based combat, and you have to really build your skills accordingly. Then it has puzzles, and the combination of the two are going to be taking you through the story. So the gameplay and visuals have been revamped from the previous game. You will not be able to use the same strategies because the enemies are bigger, faster, and they come in greater numbers. And then you will need to be adapting to what appears to be a much faster paced combat, and then much improved visuals, which have been built on a new Unreal Engine, while retaining the psychological horror and focus on Senua's struggle with psychosis. So as I mentioned in my last podcast, I talked in depth about the way the game was created, and they acquired specialist help from Cambridge University, and you had their neuroscience professor who advised on various aspects of the actual character, so that it would be as realistic as possible when linked to the experience of psychosis. And that was really done very, very successfully. The Professor Paul Fletcher was the person who excuse me, who was advising on the approach, and we've seen that so successfully integrated within the previous installment. So today, instead of telling you a bit more about the story, I will just point out certain information and certain news that came to me over the weekend. And also, I'd just like to say that everyone who's interested in Hellblade needs to go to Xbox YouTube channel. They have a brilliant podcast which was created recently by the team, and they went to Iceland, the country where the game is actually taking place, and they've gone to the locations that were influencing the environment of the game, and so they had a comparative study, the real locations versus the ones in the game, and then they illuminated various discussions on how the game was created and what really all of that meant for the team and for the participants who worked on it. And that is a terrific podcast. I highly recommend it to everyone. I watched it a couple of days ago and thoroughly enjoyed every bit of it. It's astonishing to see that Iceland is still so highly active on the volcanic level. So you have steam and hot air emerging from various pores and canyons. You have this sort of sulfuric, nasty smell emerging as you walk through the wild, and it just really is perfectly blending with the atmosphere of the game and her own personal struggles. Because don't forget, the environment where she's at is representing her inner battles, the battles against the illness which is destroying her, and the environment is equally deadly. The environment is of the kind which can destroy any inhabitant at any moment in time, highly volcanically active, and with many dangers lurking from every single corner. So it couldn't have been a better merger, I have to say. And also what I did enjoy in the first game was this sort of ultra-realistic portrayal of what it's like to be suffering from auditory hallucinations. I think it's very difficult sometimes for people to conceptualize it, and I, as a senior mental health professional and a consultant, clinical psychotherapist, I worked with very many people over the years suffered from exactly the same type of disorder, and I had the first-hand experience through their recollections and disclosures on how they were being affected. But I think as you enter this game, you are being given an opportunity to experience that by yourself in a way which is obviously fantasy-based, but very, very close to the bone, very close to the way this is actually experienced in real life. And as such, it is both petrifying as well as very scary. You know, it's a sort of a dimension of a horror game given to you in a very different format. Although the game itself is not a horror genre per se, it's a sort of psychological action adventure game. Still, you get the elements of that deep horror which is unseating you right from the start. So I think I want to just warn people, if you're expecting an easy ride, well, this is not going to be it. This is a game that requires a full immersion, and therefore you are experiencing the journey that Senua is indeed pursuing herself. You're experiencing exactly the same thoughts and feelings like herself. Therefore, you need to be ready for that. And it's not really for anyone who is suffering from weak nerves, I've got to admit. Also, I mentioned several times on the podcast that The way the illness is portrayed is ultra realistic and is probably best compared to any other television program or a film which I would have viewed tackling the same subject. And that is its greatest strength. So it's a game that can be used as a tool through which people can learn about mental illness and the struggles, and to see it in a very realistic fashion, if they wanted to, in order to experience that type of mind themselves. So they can enter Senua's mind and see what it's like to be hearing voices all the time that are telling you all sorts of things, sometimes very unpleasant, at other times perhaps guiding you to a particular target. So well portrayed and so well delivered by the Ninja Theory team. And therefore the first game received lots of different awards, featured prominently in many conventions and video gaming festivals, and just generally was seen as one of the very best games ever created. And I think they're also setting up some new standards for the industry, you know, because you can have, I mean, I quite liked, for instance, the way this behavior was portrayed in Life is Strange. But still, Life is Strange is animated, and when you watch the characters, you have that detachment from, I guess, the real life versus the fantasy. You've got the graphic novel style experience, which is drawing you to the characters and the activities and their mindset, but it doesn't have the same element of reality. You know, this is a fantasy-based game, but the element of the reality is the illness itself, and it's drawing you into the mind of the person seriously disturbed, and therefore you become them. Various members of the team who worked on the game said, well, we are Senua, and we have been disturbed by the experiences we had to live through this, through the voices, through the audio, through the creation of the story and everything else. And it's just a very interesting, very unusual take on, well, game creation as well as their take on mental illness. So definitely worthy of a good shot and of an in-depth look. And we'll just have a look at some of the creators and people who were involved with the game and what they told us and what they said about everything that is to follow tomorrow. So first of all, I actually received a message from the studio head, Dom Matthews, and he took over together with the audio director and a few other guys after the director of the original game departed from the studio. So he has given a message to everyone who enjoyed the first game, all the participants, all the community members, streamers, you know, you name it. And he says, hi everyone, as we sit on the eve of the release of Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, I personally wanted to thank you, our fans, on behalf of everyone here at Ninja Theory. We see you and we hear you when you give us so much love and support, when you tell us how much Senua means to you, when you tell us how much you're looking forward to the game, and how much faith you have in us to continue Senua's story in a way that does justice to the connection so many of you have to her and to Hellblade. So he is thanking us from the bottom of his heart on behalf of his team for our continuous participation and support of the title, and our love for Senua, our love for that mysterious, deadly world that she entered, and our huge anticipation about everything else that is to follow. From the very beginning of Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, we have had you, the players, the gamers, in mind, and I truly hope that when you play the second chapter of story, you will find that familiar connection once again, and that also so many more people will find their way to Senua and her world as well. Making video games is very difficult. Much like Senua, we as a team have been guided by a conviction to achieve our quest to make a game that sinks you deep into Senua's world and to take you on a journey that leaves you thinking and feeling. So that's critical. You know, that's critical from the head of the studio. When you play this game, you will not be just a pedestrian. You will be an active participant. You become Senua, and also you will be thinking about what's happening, and you will be feeling about what she is going through. It's a very, very powerful impact. The very best games that were created were doing exactly the same thing in a completely different environment. So just think about it. The Last of Us 2, the game that really brought in very intense feelings which were linked to participants, and the other, Mass Effect, where you really kind of wanted to cry sometimes because you were so overwrought by certain things that were happening to the characters in the game. And that was created in a different fashion. Mass Effect was giving you that emotion through fantastic narrative. You were building a relationship with various characters as you were carrying on to the game. Loads and loads of tasks, loads of quests and side missions and everything. The way you bonded with these characters was critical to the success of that game, and specifically in the Mass Effect 2. So if you're playing Mass Effect today, you got the benefit of the trilogy, which is the Legendary Edition, and you just walk through all 3 installments and you become fully aware of everything that's going on. But when we played that originally, there was a period of a couple of years in between. Incidentally, the games were so massive, particularly the second and the third installment, you could just play them for years. But the success of the game was dependent on how quickly and how deeply you bonded with the characters. And you did that through the storytelling, right? You were not entering the mind of any of the characters, but you were following the struggle in order to preserve humanity, and therefore you bonded. It didn't have to be just Shepard, the commander. Could have been any of the other of his chums who are accompanying him to various missions around the galaxy, and all of them defending the galaxy against the evil which is trying to eradicate humanity. And then you've had The Last of Us 2, the game which is based on tragedy, and therefore you identify with Ellie and Joel, and you want them to survive. You know, they face massive threats throughout, and all kinds of intense battles are to follow, yet you really feel for what happens to them and how they bond, particularly Ellie, with other characters, and how they establish their relationships in an environment which is extremely dangerous, hostile and deadly. This game is giving you all of that, but through an approach where you're entering somebody's mind, and you are her, literally from the word go, and you are entering the voices, the furies, and the disturbed elements of that from the word go. If you are to be doing the game, playing the game on your high quality headset, you will get to know Senua so well. You will be living inside of her mind, and you'll be terrified and scared of everything you see and hear. I heard that in the sequel, that will be even more greatly elevated compared to the original game. So, you know, beware. Anyway, coming back to what the head of the studio said, we ended on the game that will leave you with thinking and feeling. And he says, I believe we have achieved our quest, and I hope you'll agree. I'm very proud of the game, very proud of our team, and very proud of you, our fans, who have been supporting us throughout on this magical journey. Thank you, Don Matthews, studio head. So this is the message we received from Don Matthews. All of us who are dedicated Hellblade veterans, all of us who play the game from the word go. So that is really great, and I'm very grateful to Mr. Matthews for providing us with this sort of very humble message, in which he's describing what the intentions were and what he actually wants us to achieve as we enter the world of Senua in the sequel. So we have some other information here coming in from Xbox, and they said they wanted to give us a good picture of what these environments were like, and the Wanderers, the team behind Senua's Saga, and the incredible landscapes. So, for instance, when you see what the environments are like, and all of them are based in Iceland, you will be having an experience which is kind of breathtaking, mouth-watering. You can't just imagine how incredibly big and wonderful these environments are. And you have really a linear story where she is just needing to defeat the bosses and the enemies. And on the other hand, it does really showcase a kind of adventures like you do not come across frequently in video gaming. And then the other thing is it is ultra realistic, so it's bringing you very, very close to the character, and particularly to the way her mind works, which can be very, very scary for many people. And many games will take you to corridors, valleys, and be kind of obscuring your view, but this game is taking you to the horizon and giving you a sense of the sheer size of Senua's journey ahead, which is massive, particularly in view of the fact it's taking place in the 10th century. No means of travel but on foot. And definitely the idea is quite clear. So this is the whole story that's bringing you into a journey which is very, very big and immersive. And the Xbox team went to Ninja Theory team and they talked to some of the creative leads, and they were giving some good pointers. So they talked to Don Matthews, and he said that the geography in Iceland is better than what they could have imagined. And he said it's grounded in nature, it's very unspoiled, and it's very threatening and hostile at the same time. But it almost feels kind of alien. It's interesting that they've chosen Iceland for the environment, and Ridley Scott did exactly the same for his Prometheus film, if you're familiar. I don't know whether you watched Prometheus. Also, he has gone to Iceland and filmed the landscapes and the wilderness in a way which is very similar, creating a very similar, a very unsettling, very deadly effect, as you are also following the characters and kind of identifying with them. I don't know whether you've seen it, but Prometheus is the extension of the original Alien series, and highly recommend it to everyone. So it'd be interesting if you're watching, if you're playing Senua and Hellblade, you may want to migrate to a couple of DVDs or Blu-rays in order to see what Prometheus is like, because it's using a similar environment to very, very different effects. So it will be definitely very interesting to very many people, I think. And then we have Don Matthews saying that you get a level of realism that you can't get at all if you're just doing it by hand. And then you also have the director of VFX, Mark Slater Turnstile, and he said that as humans, when you think of an object, you've got a vision in your mind that might actually be quite different to the reality. And once you go in there, you actually see what this is altogether like. And as they said, not quite as it appears. So basically, if you consider Senua and the fact that she's suffering from psychosis, she's sort of bending reality. The reality is transformed, and the spaces around you are not always what they appear to be. And I think this is the greatest strength of the first game, and certainly it looks like they were extending that in the sequel. You are never clear whether what's happening is actually happening or whether this is a product of her imagination or indeed her illness. So the environmental and visual effects are, for the most part, grounded in reality. But they said Ninja Theory also had the ability to, I guess, move into the magical that will also with Senua experience as a result of the condition. So it's a mixture of ultra realistic, swinging from what it appears to be very realistic and very real to the other, which is linked to her imagination or indeed her illness. And the visions that she's constantly experiencing are also manipulating her surroundings, and they're also tying into other gameplay mechanics in a very, very sophisticated gameplay way. And then Matthew says, well, there's a distinction between realism and also believability. You can have fantastical elements that also appear to be entirely believable, which is interesting. You come across that in many games and films. You can see that this is not real, but you really find it to be believable. You find the environment to be representing something about the characters, about their emotions, their relationships, or anything else. Just think of Christopher Nolan's films, like Inception. And, he just literally raised the bar and brought that idea of how the environment represents what happens within somebody's mind to a completely different level. So Matthews says, that's not Matthews, you are in Senua's shoes, trying to understand the world through her eyes. But the really powerful thing is that this isn't beyond the realms of possibility for people that have experienced psychosis. That's exactly what it is. So if you're watching it, you'll be always wondering, is this actually happening, or is this a product of illness? Which is what I did have when I played the first game, literally throughout, back to back. I always felt that this was just a product of a disturbed mind, rather than something that was happening in 10th century Iceland. So it's a very delicate balance to strike. So her perspective must be authentic and very realistic to her, but also has to be quite disarming to the player. So Slater Turnstile demonstrated to the writer of the article somebody from Xbox, that he said that a leading senior towards an unassuming rock, which then just morphs effortlessly into like a stony human head before opening a new path that was never there before. So this is the particular transition which has happened dozens of times, and he says that this is going to be very, very challenging and quite interesting to many people who are entering the game. He said also that they considered what they can use from the existing environment to create a rather realistic, very authentic experience of psychosis, or experience of psychosis that people live through. And he said a lot of it is taking recognizable objects and then transforming them into something else where they look very unusual and different. So he explained it could be seen as unrealistic, but that it's not, because in her world, that is what you're seeing. Just to elaborate on this, you see, for somebody who's suffering from schizoaffective psychosis or that degree of interference, be it within their thoughts or within the capacity to hear and see, because some people who suffer from organic disorders will have a very strong auditory and also visual hallucinations. So they will have like a pictures and films emerging before them, which look extremely realistic, and they're completely unreal. They're a product of their imagination. And I think that's really so beautifully captured here. You're constantly swinging between that, what appears to be realistic, and what's happening from within her mind. And if you are considering that somebody is transforming the reality through the illness or through the disturbance which they're experiencing, then the objects that otherwise are seen as, I don't know, tables and chairs could be seen as something completely different. They're transformed visually. And that is the case with people who are suffering from certain types of organic psychosis, and it is very, very well portrayed in the game. And like he said, it is giving them the opportunity to be very creative and to experiment with that as you become the protagonist and as you go through the story. And he says, well, the Glimpse in Reality, of course, is a way to display the world through Senya's lens, and they are also a very helpful guidance from a gameplay perspective. So there isn't a map or interface guiding the way, so you need to find the way by yourself as you explore the environment. And he said that they made life quite hard for themselves by not having anything like HUD, which is an in-game HUD. And it means all of the clues on how to proceed will have to be shown with audio-visual cues, and that is intuitive, and you are rarely unclear about where you need to be going, because the story and the narrative path is kind of guiding you through the landscapes, and you know where you're going, but you never ever know what you will be facing next. So you know, that's really very, very good and very exciting. And as you could see, the members of the team were grappling with the idea of two separate realities, and they tried to really include that into the visuals and the audio concept of the game. And with the assistance of the professor and the team from Cambridge University, they were able to integrate some, well, specialist advice really given on how you need to be portraying somebody who is suffering from psychosis. And that itself was definitely turned here into a work of art. So that was coming from the Xbox team. If you are quite interested, if you want to find out more about some of those details related to Hellblade 2 Incredible Landscapes, you can either watch the podcast, or you can just migrate to Xbox Wire. The article is in there, or simply you can just go to my Twitter. I had displayed all the important articles linked to Hellblade, and you are going to be able to digest them with ease. So then we have a brand new The Last trailer, which has been released 4 hours ago, and that's the launch trailer, so it's a bit different to what we've seen beforehand, and it's come out on Xbox today. It's only a few hours ago, and I highly recommend everyone to watch it. It is very it is capturing the activity of the game very well. It's definitely something that you will be enjoying, and it also has very good music and sound. So definitely step in, have a look, hop into my Twitter, and the trailer is there. Or you can go to Xbox YouTube channel. It's also clearly displayed in there. Then we have some other articles coming from the people who worked on the game, who created it. So first of all, we have an article there that is well, it was created together with Melina Jurgens, and if you're not familiar, she is the actress that plays Senua in both games. And the interview comes from PC Games, and they were asking her really what was the way through which they created the character, and what were the ways through which the studio was supporting her as the lead actress on that journey, because eventually she was Senua and she was undergoing the same sort of experience. And so as we heard, that the game is just about to be released, and it's I think Nat Smith from PC Games that did the interview. So she asked, first of all, the Ninja Theory Studio boss, Don Matthews, and then Melina Jurgens, how they were basically approaching the actors and the participants in order to support them, because this is not just a lot of hard work to create a video game, it's also a journey that is making you look in a mirror. You need to see yourself, you need to be exploring your own mental space, your own mindset, your own mental world, in order to be able to perform correctly and adequately in the game. So a very challenging sort of experience. It's very different to what people usually have when they work on a game. And you know, so they asked these questions. So what is said, first of all, Don Matthews said, we have mental health advisors within the team, and we also offer external counseling that we have on hand for everyone in the studio should the need for that arise. And these sorts of resources have been very helpful literally during the entire game development, and they had resorted to some of that advice, not just in terms of the specialist team coming and advising on how to create a character, but also providing support if that was necessary during the process to which the game was made. And so I think from what I've seen, and also they elaborate on this, that the sequel is aligning itself with Brutality, with a title that we already know very well, and that is The Last of Us 2. And The Last of Us 2 was significantly more violent and more brutal compared to the original game. I think they've taken the same step. The explanation is that in order to survive in that environment, you have got to be able to face the challenges, and the only way you can survive is by the use of force, and that's brute force in a way which I guess is pre-medieval in the game. And you know, so that is, I guess, also similar to what we've seen in Dead Space remake. And so the lead actress is conveying that she was putting a lot of her own real life trauma into the character. And she says, I personally had suffered from psychosis before, when I was in my early 20s, and I still suffer from anxiety and various other things. So you could see this was a very risky venture for the team to be bringing in a person who had gone through a similar sort of experience in a very different environment for very many different reasons. And therefore, when she plays the lead character, there is certainly a danger that being fully immersed in the role could tip over the balance. And therefore, the counseling and other additional services were available at all times. And also, they said that Jurgens had no prior acting experience before her work on Senua's Sacrifice, though her BAFTA Games Award for Best Performer is obviously something that speaks volumes. And yeah, she portrays the character so well. I personally cannot imagine anybody else playing it but Jurgens. It's similar to when you think of films like Gone with the Wind with Vivien Leigh. There have been so many actresses selected for that role, hundreds and hundreds, and they spent several years trying to find a perfect fit for the role of Scarlett O'Hara. But when they saw Vivien Leigh, they said she's absolutely the perfect match. But it's interesting, Vivien Leigh, with her own mental struggles and her bipolar disorder, was a perfect match for the character, who was highly erratic and very unpredictable in that film, and legendary in every way. When you watch the film, you cannot think of, Vivien Leigh had many different roles in various films, in the 40s and 50s, and very many of them tackled some sort of a character who was mentally unsettled. Remember, for instance, Waterloo Bridge with Robert Taylor and her terrific film, and she ends her end in the film is tragic. Right at this very conclusion. So it's a similar sort of approach. It's a perfect fit, but the person who plays the role brings in a lot of his own or her own world into the character and into the story. So, that's really critical. And Jurgens is absolutely magnificent. The first game had such dimension and quality to the way she portrayed the character that, I've seen many other actresses doing something similar in video games and films, but this is just by far one of the very best. And also they said that there has been a huge demand on her emotionally and physically to be in this role, and she said that all of her motion capture screens for Senya's sacrifice were actually real emotions, and she was there herself. They were like real emotions, real tears and real screams. So this was no acting per se. This was just trying to draw the emotion from yourself and making it as realistic as possible in the game, and everyone else living it indeed was then experiencing the same sort of feelings that she was going through at the time. And I think this is what you would call like a cathartic experience, and I think it is really raising the standards and raising the bar for other people making similar types of video games. So she says in those scenes it's more of a way of processing her own trauma and then reliving it on stage, because I really connect that to my own real life experiences. And she says, I see this as an outlet. It gets things off my chest rather than just creating further traumas for me even more. And I see this as a very positive thing for the person. So in some sense, it's almost like a psychodrama. I don't know whether you're familiar with the concept. People would have gone through that sort of activity where you are entering a play, and you are through entering a character, bringing out the emotions which you were holding from within, and they become very real. So your own emotions merge with the character who you're portraying in the play. Then you are having that degree of catharsis for which you leave the emotions on stage. They will not haunt you afterwards when you walk off the stage. So that's the idea behind it. It's similar to what you have in clinical psychotherapy, where people go and see a therapist, and they always go to the same room at the same time, do the same thing, and they leave all the problems in that room with that therapist, and they walk away. And it's the process of getting rid of the negative emotions, getting rid of the trouble, the problems, the negative thoughts, the blackness, the darkness. And that all needs to stay with the therapist in that room. And you walk away, you should feel free. It's interesting that the whole concept of long-term psychotherapy had been linked with a build-up of an internal psychotherapist. So somebody who's been in therapy for a number of years, and maybe 2 or 3 times a week, will then build this internal advisor who will be taking decisions and advising that particular patient, that client, at certain moments on what to do and how to resolve certain negative emotions and bad experiences. So it's a very, very similar sort of process. You're entering this character and departing from the bad emotions. You leave the emotions on stage, but your own emotions become the emotions of the character who you're portraying. So she's really described that so well, and that is really absolutely amazing in terms of her quality performance. And so really it's a very serious subject matter, and Jurgens said that this was helping her to find purpose in the role beyond just the confines of the studio. So she had a close collaboration with Professor Paul Fletcher and Recovery College East, which altogether helped shape Senya around the lived experience of others. And so she says, ever since I had that experience of psychosis myself, I always wanted to find something that I can do with it that is meaningful and also something that can help other people. And she said this project was more than a perfect opportunity. And it's amazing, really. And also, I have to say, I'm humbled by how honest and how real her disclosures really are in the interview, because many people would not want to volunteer such information. But I think she can be leading by example, indicating that video games are not about killing and blood and violence as sometimes medias tend to portray them. They also can be like a catharsis to which, if you've gone to certain difficulties, can indeed feel healed, feel strengthened, feel that you are indeed being given extra tool in order to deal with these dark moments and retain a greater sense of power, strength, self-confidence, and everything else which is necessary for you to fight the demons every single day. So altogether a very unusual project, but certainly giving us a perspective that tells us there is a lot of hope if we tackle the subject with the way which is adequate and obviously supported by others. So you could see I'm talking a lot about sort of two sides of this particular video game, because that brings us to what we do here with charitable fundraising. I'm supporting the charity called Mind, that's providing exactly the same type of service, individual and group counseling and various other advisory services for people who've gone through a rough patch mentally. And you know, like for instance with Melina Jürgens, who had found the means, the tools to which she could get helped and could deliver a performance which is out of this world. Many people find exactly that within the safe setting of what the Mind charity provides. And don't forget, disclosing secrets, disclosing difficulties, so talking about painful moments, is incredibly complicated and nerve-wracking for the vast majority of our compatriots, and people will be, you know, apprehensive. They will want to know whether they can confide, whether they feel safe and secure, whether there is a relationship built with a therapist, and there are lots of different issues which will pop up straight away, particularly for those people who are the first time service users. Somebody's gone to therapist many times, it's a different story, but coming for the first time is, I can't put into words how incredibly anxiety provoking this could be. And certainly for people who are very prone to anxiety, people who are very sensitive or highly emotional. And we need to provide the best possible support, and therefore with my charitable fundraising, not just here on my channel but also in life, in real life out there, I always try to support the charities that dealt or supported or helped those people who were the most vulnerable, or people whose illnesses were perhaps not properly recognized. I'm sure that Melina Jürgens will tell us, confirm that when she experienced these bouts of psychosis, they were probably not properly understood by her own environment and people who were around her, and that is usually a sort of prejudice or a sort of a mismatch that is indeed persisting in many different localities where, you know, like any illness or any sort of disturbance, it needs to be captured in the bud right at the beginning. You need to do an early intervention to make sure it doesn't grow. But frequently that's missed because it could be attributed to somebody's being, well, there are all kinds of attributes. I don't really want to name them, but I've seen and heard them many times coming from various sections of our local communities. And even, you know, we listen to some of our politicians and what's been discussed recently about in Britain in respect of some of the state benefits that people with severe illnesses get, or have the statutory right to be getting. It's just, it defies logic. You know, and I just want to tell those politicians and other people to be reminded of one fact, that we all, every one of us, can become seriously mentally ill under certain circumstances, because mental illness does have its own biological roots, as well as the effects of the environment and as well as the effects from the way we live. So it really kind of combines the three aspects of genetic, biological, environmental, i.e. the people who we live with and people who we meet and what we do in real life, as well as the other, you know, conditions such as nutrition, weather, etc. All of these factors interact at all times, and we have got to understand that mental illness is as serious as any other illness. We can't be belittling somebody who's suffering from depression, therefore not able to get out of bed, saying that he's lazy, you know, which is a very common attribute given to people who are suffering from severe depression, and also for people who suffer from schizoaffective psychosis, organic psychosis, the label of you are crazy. Well, that's not going to help anyone. You need to find out what this experience is, why it's happening, and how it can be helped, and most importantly, how that person can then carry on with a life through the methods which will make them ready and able to survive the experience. Survival, rather than the straightforward cure, is the long-term therapeutic goal, although sometimes certain types of conditions can be helped with medicine and with medication and with certain approaches if they are to be found to be organically based, like with certain types of epilepsies, for instance. If the appropriate treatment, medical treatment, is prescribed, then if the psychosis, auditory and visual, is based on neurological malfunctioning, which is clearly defined with epileptic seizures or certain types of seizures, then indeed it can be helped and it can be contained through such a pharmacological approach. But as I said, that's not the case for very many, and we have got to be a bit more open-minded and a bit more clear on how we can be helping those people who are suffering the most. Anyway, I digressed a bit. I was just giving you a bit of a picture as to why I feel the game is so significant if really brought into the community of people who suffered from mental health issues, and as to why it is so important for us to be supporting such projects, because they are first of all raising the awareness, secondly they are creating general interest from the gameplay and everything else that is offered into the field. And then, as you've seen with Ninja Theory, they had given all the profits to the organization which previously was called National Schizophrenia Fellowship, and now it's called Rethink Mental Health, I think. Rethink was the new name, which was introduced, I think, in 2012 or so. And all the profits that they made from making the game have gone into that charity, and the charity that helps people to rebuild their lives if indeed they're suffering from psychosis or any other form of major mental health illness. Right, so let me just see, we have another interview there that I wanted to tell you about, also all to do with the sequel, and that is Hellblade 2. And the article comes from The Guardian newspaper. And she says that in this interview, I hope people can relate to Senua. And she says, I hope people play it and feel what somebody goes through on a daily basis who suffers from mental health issues, and particularly from psychosis. And hopefully anybody who is playing the game will have a great understanding. And she says they come away with an understanding of it, able to empathize with the same people a lot more. Well, that's the greatest strength of the game, and I think anyone who is playing Senua or has gone into the first game or will be entering the sequel will definitely have a greater sense of what it's like to be suffering from a major mental illness. And just don't forget, some people have that experience 24/7. So it's not like a fleeting moment, having it for 5 minutes. Some people have it in waves, and they will have more of it when they feel very anxious. And with certain conditions which are based on organic malfunctioning, it could be extremely severe. It could be that people see and hear things which are literally not there, and get absolutely tormented by the severity of these types of hallucinations. So it's quite a variety of different symptoms and signs that one needs to take into account. And when entering such game and playing a character like Senua, you are entering the mind, and you are living you're living through that sort of experience. And I think the game is therefore extremely significant for anyone who has anything to do with mental health, be it a service user or professional. And she says that she did not really expect to be playing this role for the second time running. And in fact, she said she even not expected to play it for the first time. And she was a video editor at the independent game studio when the first Hellblade game, Senua's Sacrifice, was considered in 2012. And she's seen the advert indicating that the studio Ninja Theory were looking for an actress. But in the meantime, they asked her to step in and to help out with performance capture and some tech experiments, because that was her niche. And she said, well, at some point, as we were sort of experimenting with motion capture and all of that, they asked me to perform a scene. And she said the director really liked it, and then he said, well, you're great for the role and you can have it. So she was obviously delighted, but initially a bit apprehensive, and she didn't really accept the offer right away. And she said that also there was a bit of a worry. Didn't enjoy performing at first. And then in her words, she says, I took a few days to think about it. I really did not want to be in front of the camera, as I've always been as a crew member behind it. On the other hand, I thought it was a great opportunity that I really shouldn't miss out on, because I was scared, you know. So obviously, being a person who's experienced psychosis in the past, there would be many different questions arising whether it would be a wise thing to do health-wise. And she says, I pushed myself out of my comfort zone to do it, and I faced my utmost fears. Well, I mean, this is incredibly admirable, and we really need to be respecting that decision, because you are leaving yourself completely naked, you know, to raw emotion and suffering and the experiences which indeed would be created for Senua, but you relive them through your own kind of real-life experience of your own environment and life, and it can be very dangerous, you know, unless properly supported and guided. And then they said that the original game was given a lot of acclaim in 2017 and sold 1 million copies within the first 10 months. And then she won, Melina Jürgens, the award from BAFTA for the best performance. And it's, you know, it's haunting. I don't remember watching any other video game that had this element of realism in it. And I'm talking about the first game, so this one is going to be having even more of that. And you know, the experience of these constant voices, which in the game are called Furies, is tormenting. And it's tormenting to Senua, the fictional character, as well as to the actress who's playing the character, because she's reliving the situations, and therefore, as she described it, it was you know, a bit of a risk, but she wanted to step out of her comfort zone, and therefore she entered it. So as we've seen, the sequel is coming out now. We're all very excited about it, and the studio was bought by Microsoft for $117 million in 2018. So this was just a year after the release of the game, and also it was given a new studio, which is in Cambridge, in the city centre. And I have to say, when I watched the documentary on the studio, it's extraordinary. It's a purpose-built, purpose-created to be for that company, and so, you know, it's, you definitely, I'd like to ask everyone to watch the documentary. You'll get a very good impression as to why it was so important for the game to be made at that location. So it's a perfect environment for such projects to be created. And then let me just see. Dominic Matthews, he said that the way the second game has been created is very different to the original title, and he said that when they moved into the studio, it just didn't look like a location which is ideal for that sort of activity. So it looked like a call center, and then we had a dated boardroom which was just right next to the kitchen, and they had a coffee machine, and also, you know, all other kinds of bits and pieces were there. And he said we had to really make sure that people didn't go in there whilst we were recording, because there would be very serious interference. 20 people worked on the original game, and this time there were more than 80, so 4 times more. And the expectations for the sequel obviously are much higher. And he said that irrespective of the pressure, they're working today in the same way as they would have done 10 years ago. And he says, well, this is not really a Hollywood blockbuster. This is a quality independent film. And the scriptwriter Lara Derham, she is in fact in that podcast that Xbox had made. Just definitely pop in and have a look. She talks quite a lot about the character and the way they created Senua and why the environment is important, and all the other things which I was describing here already over these 2 episodes. And she said, we have resources to do a bit more than what we could before, but we are not like a major, massive, big team, and we are a lot smaller than most AAA games. And ultimately, we are a studio that operates like a small indie unit, and therefore that's the trademark, the signature of what we do. And apparently they worked more than 70 days on the motion capture for Hellblade combat. And if you compare that with the first game had only 2 days for the motion capture of combat. So 70 days versus 2 days. So you could just well imagine how much more advanced the sequel is going to be. And then they also drafted a specialist stunt team called Lucky 13 Action, in fact, Lucky 13 Action. And they were advising them and then creating some set pieces. So, for instance, Eugen said, well, they created a boat which was then hung from the ceiling of the mocap stage. And she says, I got to perform on the boat while it was rocking, as people were pushing it back and forth from all sides. And then she says the other challenging sequence was with the gyroscope, when I got to hang down from the mocap ceiling and do spins and then swimming and things like that. So she said, well, it was physically very testing and a lot harder than what you would expect. Well, that is amazing. I think these are some thoughts and snippets about the way the sequel has been created and what challenges they faced. I think if you compare what I said to you today about Hellblade 2 and with the previous descriptions, an in-depth look at both of those titles, you'll have a very good picture and you'll be more than well prepared to engage with the sequel when it comes out tomorrow on Xbox Game Pass. And you can play it just free of charge on the subscription price, which also is truly wonderful. I really wish the Ninja Theory team well. I wish them the very best of success. First of all, for their bravery, for their honesty, for their dedication to the cause. They're absolutely amazing, and hardly any other studio would have dared to do anything like this. And it's a huge risk to take. Coming back to what we heard from the industry, everyone is hotly anticipating the game, and there's been a lot of concern already about 3 weeks ago as to why there's been no marketing campaign for Hellblade 2. And it's been questioned whether the strategy to which you'll deliver lots of clips and podcasts and interviews within the 2 weeks prior to the release would be successful, enabling the game to be so successfully sold as it's offered on a subscription platform, which is obviously the Xbox Game Pass. I don't know. It's hard to tell. They could have invested huge amounts into the advertising, but I think the most critical part of the success of the first game has been tied in to the way the game came across and what this game was about, and how it's been created and how the lead character Senua was able to engage with so many different people around the world through an activity and a portrayal that is highly disturbing. Disturbing because the character is suffering from major mental illness. So that's a huge success, and I think anyone who played the first game, liked it, and who identified with the character and with the struggles will automatically migrate to the sequel. So what was it? This is 10 million copies. Was it 1 million copies? And it was 1 million copies. Let me just see. I lost the facts. It was 1 million copies over 10 months, I think. Let me just see. I want to quote the numbers wrongly. Bear with me a second. Yeah, it was 1 million copies in 10 months. That's correct. And so be 1 million users guaranteed, in addition to everybody else who would have stepped in and played it on PlayStation and on Xbox over the last few years. And, and maybe new people coming in after seeing the ad and getting acquainted with it, or maybe some people who were experiencing mental health problems and heard about the game, various online forums. So all of that will have a success guaranteed. And as I said, from the very bottom of my heart, I wish the team of Ninja Theory the very best. I wish them a very successful launch. I'm sure that the game will perform very well. It's not a PvP game, not relying on online servers to have many technical issues on release. And, we are all looking forward to that big hour tomorrow. And we are all going to step in and try Senua from the word go. So back to what I said earlier, make sure you preload. If you want to be loading the game at a time where the game is just about to be released, there will be many other people trying to do exactly the same, so the actual queue will be very long take a long time to download. Make sure you preload, and I think Xbox and Microsoft are excelling with preloads. We've heard that updates will be offered as well in no time for people to preload in order to avoid lengthy queues and waiting periods and everything else. It's a very, very good add-on, something new, something that will refresh the way we operate, the way we use games and download them to our consoles. Alright, so I think in addition to Hellblade, I would like to tell you a bit more about some other things which are happening at the moment. We've heard from PlayStation that they are going to be taking down 34 games. And I honestly cannot understand for the life of me as to why they're doing this. We've heard from Square Enix the other day that they want to be changing the way they operate in order to make revenue, and there will be a major turnaround through their marketing policies and the ways to which the games are offered. And I'm absolutely gutted to see that the entire selection of Final Fantasy games, so we are talking about 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 games, are being taken down from PlayStation Plus services, the streaming services, on May the 21st. That's terrible, because I just had acquired PlayStation 5 recently, and I had earmarked all the Final Fantasy games to play which I've not tried before, and now they're all going to be gone. It just seems dreadful. On the other hand, it's possible that some of those will emerge on the Game Pass. I'm not sure, but there is a possibility, or maybe elsewhere. And in addition to the Final Fantasy series, or these 7 titles, the ones departing are Darksiders series, so it's Darksiders Genesis, All Mastered Edition, Death Definitive Edition, and Darksiders 3. All those games are very enjoyable. I played them all 3, and gutted to see that they're disappearing. Then you have Absolver, Downfall, Absurd Drift, Ashen, LX1 and 2. Then you have Horizon Zero Dawn Complete Edition. Well, I've got the game. I purchased it on day 1, but people who are still doing it, you better hurry up, because the game's going to be gone in no time. And there's been a speculation whether they will provide a remastered edition that will come to PlayStation Plus day 1. So it's a speculation, it's not been confirmed, but there's certainly a possibility, because the original game was done on the engine linked to the old gen console, and it would be massively enhanced indeed if remastered. So I kind of look forward to that if that is to become true. How to Survive 2, Joe 2, and Kingdoms of Amalur: Re-Reckoning, I'm Dead, Last Stop, Minute, Monster Jam Steel Titans, MX vs ATV Legends, My Friend Pedro, a very funny game as well, Observation, Sundered, The Artful Escape, The Messenger, This Is the Police 1 and 2, Wreckfest, and World of Final Fantasy. All of these games are disappearing, and that's been confirmed, and that's happening on the 21st of May. So look at this. We have 34 games disappearing, and we have just realized that is tomorrow. That's terrible. That's just, that's a huge, huge thumbs down for all of those games that disappear on the same day. I don't understand it. And the games that we are getting tomorrow on PlayStation Plus are Cat Quest 1 and 2, which is alright. Crime Boss Rocket City, I really want to be playing. Excited about that one. Red Dead Redemption 2, one of the biggest games they ever had on PlayStation. Definitely a very welcome inclusion. And then you have Deceiving Incorporated, Stranded: Alien Dawn, also quite good. The Lego Movie 2 video game, The Settlers: New Allies, The Sims 4 City Living expansion pack, and then Watch Dogs. I think Watch Dogs is one of the expansions, because the Watch Dogs are already on PlayStation Plus. I don't get the logic of it, what's that? 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Is it 10 or 9 games? Wait a minute. Let me just say that again. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 games coming in, 34 departing. That's not really a very good omen. Anyway, a warning to all of you, all the PlayStation gamers, if you are on PlayStation and if you still want to play some of these games, well, there is no time. Double check whether they reduce prices on these games during this period, which is a possibility, I guess, similar to what we've seen with the Xbox strategy. I've heard from the executive that they want to be aligned with the strategies, so they will have something very similar. But still, very disappointing to see that Final Fantasy series is disappearing from PS Plus, and then we have also Darksiders, and this is the police. And you know, the police is a very nice, very enjoyable little game for everyone to play, and I'm gutted. Then we have here some news coming from Xbox, and that's come on Xbox Wire. So let's see what we'll be getting, what new games will be coming to Xbox Game Pass from May the 21st to 24th. And let me just see, we have, let me just see, Game Pass. Yeah, so it's actually several releases that these games are not exclusively going to be offered on Game Pass. So you have Neptunia Sisters vs. Sisters, and this is a very popular game coming to Xbox Play Anywhere, and that's not on the Game Pass, I take it. May the 21st, coming out tomorrow. Then we have Paper Trail Demo, so that's coming out as well. That's accessible to everyone on any platform. And then you have, of course, we already said, Senua's Saga Hellblade. That is on the Game Pass, and you can have it also on Xbox Play Anywhere. In addition to that, another big game we talked about, it's a PvP game coming from Ubisoft, is also coming out on May the 21st. And I have to say that that's really surprising, as they matched the release of the game with the date that we have for Senua, and that's definitely not something I look forward to. I think it will clash, it will be affecting, well, it's different types of players doing PvP. XDefiant is a free-to-play first-person online arena shooter, and you have really small death matches, tight maps, and it's just for those people who like that sort of PvP activity. So definitely no similarity whatsoever with Senua, but I just have a bit of concern that both of those are released on the same day. And then you have a fully fledged remake of the big game from the 90s, which I played quite a lot those years back, and you'll obviously remember that this is System Shock, and that's completely remade. So the old game, which was very enjoyable and highly addictive, had been remade, and it is coming to us now on May the 21st. It's optimized for Series X and S, it's smart delivery, but it is not on the Game Pass. And I'm not happy about that, I've got to say. Yet again, I said XDefiant is coming out tomorrow as well. If you are into PvP, you may want to try it. And don't forget, XDefiant has got a concept identical to Apex. You don't need to pay anything. It's free of charge, download and play. But you can be purchasing all kinds of things in order to beautify yourself. You know, the cosmetics, you name it. And they are going to be costly. And then you have Doug's Nightmare. That is again released on Xbox, not on the Game Pass. You have Survive on Raft. That again is released on Xbox, not on Game Pass. Ultra Food Mess. That is the sequel to the original game. And you can also play that together with 3 of your friends. And you can go on a tasty trip around the world. So it's traveling and at various delicacies that many different countries will have to offer. Then you have, that's on May the 22nd, sorry, I said it is tomorrow. Then have Cat Pipes, again, it is for Xbox, not on the Game Pass, May the 23rd. You have Crown Wars, The Black Prince, you can pre-order May the 23rd, coming out. The Crown Wars is a turn-based tactics strategy game, so it's not PvP and it's not an RPG, which I guess you could derive from some of the illustrations. Then you have Eternal Threads, and that is out on May the 23rd, and that is also just on Xbox, not on the Game Pass. So not many, I would say, the vast majority of these are coming out on Xbox, but not offered on the subscription platform. Galactica, May the 23rd. Again, I think is this a turn-based strategy? You're saving the galaxy and you are the director of Galactica. You have your own interstellar healthcare company. And then Haunty. Well, Haunty has been talked about quite a bit. And let me just think. I did see this game. No, it's not on the Game Pass. It's offered on Xbox Play Anywhere. And you're playing a naive but brave ghost who is constantly asking questions and looking for answers. And that's a cute little game. It's an indie game. And again, on Series X and S, out on May the 23rd. Rocket Rumble, that is coming out on May the 23rd. And this is a racing brawler. 1 to 4 party members can join, 4 gamers at any given time. I've seen that advertised on Xbox channel. I've seen it also in This Week on Xbox. Looks like an enjoyable game, and if you're into Rocket League, you probably will like that one as well. Wizardry, Proving Grounds of the Mad Overlord. That's coming out on May the 23rd. Delusion, May the 24th, which is a puzzler. So if you were listening to my descriptions of various puzzles I played on the Game Pass, well, this is going to be one of those. It's not on the Game Pass, it's coming out on Xbox Series X and S, May the 24th. The Glass Staircase is a retro console survival horror and Italian zombie movies referenced, so it'd be quite interesting to see what they are going to be giving us. Again, not on the Game Pass, but I'm curious because I did watch Dario Argento's film, so Mario Barbas, and let me see whether it is indeed made in Italy as well. There are a couple of very big developers in Italy that make horror games. I played one of them that I thought looked like Silence of the Lambs, but it was a bit disappointing. And then Paper Dash City Hustle, May the 24th. And then the last one is TP Bullet. So you play a secret agent marksman, and you need to be competing against the Skeleton King and his minions who are attacking the city. So that's really a Japanese game, looking very funny, entertaining, and full of great activities. Alright, my friends, these are the news. I have actually a few other news that arrived, but I think we are going to be keeping it very much in line with Hellblade and all else. As you've seen, just think about the number of titles I just pronounced. 34 games departing from PlayStation, plus 10 new games coming in, and then we probably had about 20 coming to Xbox. The sheer size, the volume of the titles is mind-boggling. I'm not sure whether I'll be able to remember every one of those, and also when is there going to be enough time to be playing all these? You know, it's just unbelievable. Anyway, it's good times, and as I said, all of us are looking forward to Hellblade tomorrow. Told you all about it, and I'm very excited about its release. I wish the Ninja Theory team all the very best, one of the very best of success, particularly for the bravery and for the honesty. You know, running a studio that offers such unusual projects is admirable. It's something we need to cherish. It's being really independent to the core and being true to the core, just following your ideals and trying to make sure that the quality product is going to be the best possible. Most importantly, coming back to what we do here, supporting charitable fundraisers and charities, it aligns ourselves with Hellblade and Senua as the major supporters for mental health. You know, we fight for mental health. I just went to the Mind Shop the other day. In my town, we have a very nice shop supporting the charity, and I bought several things there. You know, so I had donated by purchasing these goods. And what's interesting is I purchased myself, it's almost brand new, only cost me a couple of pounds, a special, it's like a top quality industry made stand for laptops, phones and tablets. And as I donated my tablet to somebody recently who also required it in terms of the mental health, I really needed that new tablet stand, and I had it for only a few pounds, brand new, of excellent quality. But I'm so pleased to see that my donations go directly to Mind, in the same way as your donations will go directly to Mind. Obviously, you will be donating to Tiltify and online, and I'm donating through the purchase of various items in the shop. But it's exactly the same procedure. You know, whatever you purchase there goes directly to Mind. It's a donation, and we all, by doing so, we fight for mental health. And if you purchase the Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, you are going to be, hang on a minute, Senua's Sacrifice, is it? Or is it Senua's Saga? I suddenly muddled. Yeah, Senua's Saga Hellblade 2. If you purchase Senua's Saga Hellblade 2, then you are also investing in mental health, and you're fighting for it. You know, you're a contributor, you're an active participant in a process to which the lives are being saved. Remember that. It's critical. We live in very dark times, terrible things happening in the world, but we have got to retain that degree of positivity. We need to be upbeat. We need to be forward thinking. We need to fight for mental health. We need to fight for our own health. And we need to lead healthy and happy lives, therefore. And on that note, I shall wish you all a very good afternoon. Wish you a successful day ahead. And enjoy Senua. Enjoy Hellblade 2. See you all shortly. See you all soon. Take care.